on the tarmac at Venezuela's main international airport. And you are seeing now yet another deportation flight with Venezuelans deported from the U.S. By the way of Honduras, and it landed there in Caracas. And so you've been seeing some of these undocumented migrants step down the plane there, and they're wearing all white, kind of in these white sweatsuits, gray sweatsuits with masks, red masks. And you see them there. So, looks like the feed isn't the best. But this is the second time we have seen this in just a matter of weeks. And you remember mere weeks ago, U.S. Special Envoy Rick Grenell traveled to Venezuela, brokered with the Venezuelan government. Remember, the previous Biden administration does not recognize Venezuela's autocratic leader, Nicolas Maduro, as the duly elected leader of Venezuela. Nonetheless, the Trump administration brokered a deal with the Maduro government in order for the United States to send some of these deportation flights to Venezuela to return some of these undocumented migrants who were from Venezuela in the first place. And that's what you're seeing right now, some of them. So remember, during the Biden administration, there was a cutoff, a particular date that if a Venezuelan undocumented migrant made it to the United States by whatever means, they would be shielded from deportation under this designation known as Temporary Protected Status, TPS. And so now, of course, with the Trump administration, that is no longer operative. And that is why you are seeing some of these undocumented Venezuelan migrants return now to their country of origin. Now, remember, a large majority of these individuals in the United States and in Venezuela are either accused of and or convicted of committing crimes. And so, remember, Tom Homan, the border czar for the Trump administration, said when it comes to deporting some of these undocumented migrants, he says, the worst are going to be the first, meaning that the worst of them will be deported first. And presumably that's what you are seeing right now. And a lot of them are coming off this deportation flight. This is powered there by the airline Conviasa. And so a lot of these airport workers on the tarmac right now. And we're seeing a similar uniform, kind of a gray and white sweatsuit there, red masks covering some of their faces, some of their mouths. And remember, here on Live Now from Fox, we have covered extensively the crackdown on this Venezuelan gang within the United States, and they have seemingly found safe harbor illegally. That gang, remember, TDA, Tren de Aragua, it originated in a Venezuelan prison, and some of the members and expats of the gang made their way to set up shop in the United States. And we've seen a large crackdown on some of those efforts by law enforcement, including and especially not only in the New York City area, but also in the Denver metro area. Let's just listen to this sound, some of the natural sound on the ground. Okay, so if you're just joining us here, we're almost at the top of the hour. You are watching scores of undocumented Venezuelan migrants arrive back in Venezuela after being deported from the United States under the Trump administration's efforts to round up some of these undocumented migrants, a majority of whom are either accused or have been convicted of committing crimes within the United States and or their country of origin. And look at all of them come off this plane. Wow. This is the second site that we have seen in the past several weeks, and they are coming from the United States by way of Honduras. And you remember some of them from the Trump administration setting up shop there at the U.S. Naval Station, Naval Base in Cuba at Guantanamo Bay, Gitmo, to house and detain some of them waiting for these deportation flights. And I believe that is what has happened here. I believe that is one of these cases in which some of these Venezuelans were briefly detained there at Gitmo in Cuba. So really just a stunning display of the agreements in place with a country that is considered an adversary, considered hostile to the United States because of the Maduro regime. Remember, the Maduro regime is now in power still again after fraudulent elections in July of last year that the United States at the time did not recognize. The United States recognized, in our view, the rightful winner of those elections, Edmundo Gonzalez, the opposition leader. And for a time, Gonzalez, remember, had to flee the country alongside other opposition figures who were drawing the suspicion of Maduro forces there in the capital of Caracas. And that is where we're watching right now in Caracas at the moment at Simón Bolívar International Airport.